I am rapt to be here today, and really one of the reasons that I love talking about this is I love to help people grow their business. It's my passion as well, Steve. So hands up here, who is on LinkedIn at the moment? Okay, so pretty much everyone. Keep your hands up if you've generated business on LinkedIn. One person, two people. Well done. Can we have a round of applause for the two people in the room? Well done. That's fantastic. What I'd like to do with you today is we're really going to get hands-on. Is that cool? Okay. So has everyone got the LinkedIn app on your phone? Can you all pull out your phones for me for a moment? I'm going to teach you something straight off the bat that it's going to be super cool and it's going to help us stay connected. Is that okay? So, what I'd like for you to do is learn how to connect with people when you're at events. How cool's that? But not just connect by clicking the connect button and have it send, I'd like to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn, but with a personalised invite. Would you like that? Because when we personalise the invites, we increase the conversion rate. Did you know? When we personalise the invite to connect, you increase your conversion rate of people accepting that by up to 70%. That's how huge it is. So find my name, Julie Mason, type it into the search bar. Hopefully this mug will show up for you and you'll see that I live in Brisbane and I am a LinkedIn expert or helping businesses generate leads and sales using LinkedIn. When you find me, you will either have a connect button or in-mail button on the screen. I want you to ignore that for a moment and find the 3 dots up on the right-hand side. Has everyone found it? Just give me a yes if you found it. Great. Now hit the 3 dots. Not on my name, but there'll be 3 dots near my name somewhere. There we go. We've got people helping out all over the place. I love this collaboration. Okay, has everyone got the 3 dots? Click on the 3 dots and you'll have a drop-down menu that appears and it gives you the option to choose personalise your invite. Click on that and say, hey, Julie, great to see you at Steve's event today. Is that cool? This is practice in real life. So whenever you're going to a networking event or a BNI breakfast or any kind of event that you are attending and you're meeting people, rather than hand a business card to them, which is all good and well, but sometimes those business cards end up in the bin or in a bucket for a really long time, and it's all good intentions, but people don't often do much with a business card. However, if they connect with you on LinkedIn, now they'll see all your activity and you'll see theirs. And you've got a lot greater chance of developing a relationship. Is that cool? Do you like that idea? I know we've got carbohydrate coma kicking in, but the more you engage with me, the better the stuff is that I give. Is that cool? Okay, we've got 2 people alive. Hello? Ah, there we go. Okay, cool. You're all too busy trying to find those 3 dots and personalise an invite to me, aren't you, right? I know it's hard to talk and type. I get it. So, have you all done that now? Excellent. Now, throughout tonight and today, why don't you start connecting with each other on the table and also at dinner tonight, connecting with other people that you talk to. Is that cool? Excellent. That's a great way of doing it, right? Okay, great. So let's talk about, we've got 2 sessions today that I'm talking on LinkedIn. I want to break these into 2 different sections. The first section, I feel a little bit of twang. Is that a bit better? That's better, right. I could feel a bit of twang coming back. Right, can you still hear me okay? Videographer guys, that all right? Fabulous, fantastic. Okay, so I want to break these sections into 2 parts. The first part is the secrets to a powerful LinkedIn profile. I want to show you how to get your profile so that it magnetically will draw your ideal client to you. It takes away the hard work, right? We're going to literally activate your silent salesperson on LinkedIn so it can do the heavy lifting. Is that cool? Who'd like a silent salesperson in their business? Me? right? I love it. The second thing that we're going to do in part 2 today is we're going to show you how to build really great relationships. We're going to talk about strategy. Is that cool? So how do you use this amazing, powerful program? I'm going to go on to LinkedIn Live quite a bit today. Is that all right? Yeah? And you've got your app. Now, the app is not quite as good as the desktop. So if you do have your laptop, bring up LinkedIn and let's work through it together. If you're on the app, follow through as much as you can. Is that cool? And take plenty of notes. I think you've got a couple of pages in that notebook, in the workbook, to take notes with me today. So let's just give you some background about where LinkedIn is at the moment, because it is an amazing platform. One of the reasons I love LinkedIn is because it is the world's biggest platform where the most affluent, educated and influential people hang out. We've got 500 million members and growing rapidly worldwide. In Australia, we have 9 million members here in Australia. They check in on average, 40% of those people check in once a day. Now, that may not seem a lot, but one of the reasons I love LinkedIn to bits is that LinkedIn tell us, and this is the really important part, LinkedIn tell us that 62% of members on LinkedIn are checking LinkedIn for industry insights and updates. That means they're coming onto LinkedIn with a business mindset. Whereas when we go onto Facebook, and we've got about 16 plus million users in Australia on Facebook, and they check in on Facebook on average 16 times a day, on average. Now, they're going on to Facebook to be social first and foremost, to self-express second, and then business is third. So we kind of go into an interruptive marketing pattern with Facebook. Don't get me wrong, you want to use it. It's a fantastic tool. And I think what Pete said earlier is that you want to have all these different pillars of marketing in your business, and it's great, right? But what are the things that I love about LinkedIn is the psychology of the users in there. They're going there specifically with a business mindset. It's not a place where you post pictures of your lunch. It's not a place where you post your holiday snaps. It is where you're going there to do business. And in 2012, LinkedIn realized that they had to turn the ship around, because most people kind of think of LinkedIn as a resume holding site, right? It's so much more powerful than that. And they realized this, and so they turned the boat around by making it the biggest content hub for business on the net. And what they did was they purchased products like SlideShare. Has anyone heard of SlideShare before? One? No one else? Okay, you're going to love SlideShare. Who's got PowerPoint presentations in the room? Hands up tall so I can see over the lights. Fantastic. Okay, so you know if you have a video, you tend to upload it to YouTube. If you've got a PowerPoint presentation, you upload it to SlideShare. Okay, and you can share it around the net. It's a fantastic tool. And in fact, SlideShare had more business traffic going to it than any other website in 2012 on the net, period. So LinkedIn went, great acquisition, right? We'll buy that and we'll put that into our fold. They also bought a program called lynda.com. Now, lynda.com, if you're a premium user, and I'll talk about free and premium about LinkedIn soon as well, but if you're a premium user on LinkedIn, you have access to lynda.com, which has thousands of online training programs. Not to put Steve's Academy down at all, it's just that this is huge, right? It's worldwide. Yes? Yep. You shouldn't need to pay for the $39 per month anymore. Yay! We've saved this man at the front, $40 a month. Now you can buy the Academy, because that's exactly right? Perfect. Good plug for you there, Steve. So places like Brisbane City Council have now made, if you're a member of Brisbane Library, State Library, for example, they give you free access to Lynda, and all of these programs are on there, right? Where you can get training on how to use LinkedIn, you can get training on how to use Facebook, you can get training on change management, all sorts of different topics that are around business. So it's a fantastic program. So again, we've got another content hub coming in to LinkedIn, right? So this becomes really interesting, and it's going to talk about content strategy around this as well today. So we now know the mindset of people is really focused on business, okay? But what I love about LinkedIn is that Google have an absolute love fest with your profile. So my name, Julie Mason, is right up there with John Smith as being as common as muck, right? You Google my name. Last time I screenshot it, it was 31,900,000, 31.9 million websites with the name Julie Mason attached to it, right? My biggest competition is that chickie babe there, who happens to be a reporter for the Washington Post in the White House. I have a word for that, starts with F, finishes with K, can't say it really out loud a lot. But yeah, she really, ticks me off, right? Because I can't knock her off. She creates so much content, it's not funny. Yeah? So when you're doing the whole Google thing, it's a hard challenge. But if you notice here, my LinkedIn profile ranks usually 1 or 2. If you Google your name, you'll find your LinkedIn profile actually outranks sometimes your website. Because Google see LinkedIn as this incredibly trusted website, right? It's a very rich and detailed, it's got all of your information there, so they will give your personal profile a massive Google ranking to actually rank it very high. So you want to make sure that your Google profile's well laid out. And I'll come to that more in a moment. But you can see here that going down that page, you've got my LinkedIn profile, then my website, then we've got images, then we've got this POTUS lady who works for the Washington Post, and then my other website, the Social Media Princess. And so we tussle for the front page of Google quite a bit. But here's the thing, you can have, on the free version of LinkedIn, you can have a company page for your business as well. And you'll see that my company page and my personal profile, because it's connected to my personal profile, both rank very highly if you search for the Social Media Princess. Isn't that cool? So Google actually help you with some of your SEO rankings. That's kind of excellent stuff, right? When we're in the whole game of trying to get on Google front page. So just keep that in mind as some of the benefits that Google really love LinkedIn. Now, let me give you a little bit of perspective about where I come from. Because you guys don't know me from a bar of soap, right? Who am I? Who is this chickie babe that's flown down from Brisbane today that's gotten this awesome limo ride that Steve has never met before? God love him. How cool is that? Well, I started actually cold calling when I was 5 years old. I grew up in a little country town called Nambucca Heads. Has anyone heard of it? That's my hometown. My dad happened to know pretty much everybody there. He's a very outgoing guy. And I really started cold calling because I wanted to get out of eating custard at night time. Does anyone have a food you hate eating as a kid? I mean, hated eating? And your mum said, eat it, child, because there's people starving in Africa? Did anyone else? One other lady's really reminiscing with me. The poor people in Africa featured a lot at the dinner table in our place, right? And I wasn't allowed to leave the dinner table until I finished that blasted custard, or I had to go straight to bed. I went to bed a lot, right? So I was out with my dad this particular time, and he was fundraising for the poor people, and my little 5-year-old brain, this is me at 5, blonde hair, blue-eyed, tiny butter wouldn't melt in my mouth kind of thing. What a joke that was. And I went out with my dad, and he would knock on the neighbour's door and all the people that he knew in the town and say, "G'day, Barry, it's Andy here. Look, I'm raising money for the poor. Can you give me $10? And Barry'd say, "Sure, Andy, here you go. Here's $10. And I kind of went, I know how to stop eating custard, right? So I snuck out of the house a couple of weeks later with all of my Crayola masterpieces, all of my Paddle Pop Stick creations in my little preschool case that I had. I saw Dad write something on a piece of paper and give it to them. So I snuck into Mum's squash case and pinched her raffle tickets, and off I went. I went and sold all of my wares. I was complete sellout. Sold everything to raise money for the poor. These are the days where if you got a 50-cent piece at my age, that was like high finance, right? It was like, whoa, I'm rich. And I came home and my mum was like, "Where have you been, child?" And I'm like rattling my coins and saying, Mum, I raised money for the poor. I don't have to eat custard anymore. And she said, "That's not how it works, child." Shattered, right? But that's how I started. And as I got older and Dad would do fundraising for various things, he'd do one side street, I'd do the other. And by the time I was 11, I was out, funding him. I was getting more money than him. And so I was taught that selling was fun and cold calling was even better. Who else thinks that way? Yeah, you've all just slid under the table, right? So my background is from the age of 5, and I've spent 25 years in sales. I've done 15 years in door-to-door cold calling in Sydney, Brisbane and Melbourne. I've cold called every industrial estate in those 3 cities 11 years ago. So I was a lot skinnier then, can I say? I walked a lot. Nowadays I sit behind my computer and let my fingers do the walking, right? So it's really cool. When I came across LinkedIn though, and somebody said to me 9 years ago that 73% of the members on LinkedIn are the decision makers in their business or their department, my little eyes, having done all of these miles and miles and miles of cold calling, went bing, 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 bing. Because I can tell you, I've been told to rack off more ways than you could have apple pie, right? I used to be called the queen of rejection. Now I'm the social media princess. It's both a demotion and a promotion all at once. I'm now a princess, but I have more fun, right? So it's really cool. But when I saw this, I literally started salivating because I'm like, man, if I can get to the decision maker and start to have a relationship with them instead of going through all of these gatekeepers and receptionists and all the people that I had to get through to get my business in the door, how cool would that be? So I want to share with you what I've learned in the last 9 years. Are you ready for it? Yeah? You excited? Okay, let's rock. Okay, so since then, lots of online marketing, built a website and design SEO business and created 3 successful online memberships. I'm an author. I made CoverGirl at the age of 47. That was kind of cool. CoverGirl of Social Media Success magazine in Australia, and I'm one of Australia's, and now just a couple of weeks ago, listed by my peers as one of the top 25 LinkedIn experts worldwide. So I'm kind of chuffed with that, right? That's about as much braggadocio as you're going to get from me. The rest is all about you. My clients, from the results of what I'm teaching you, and I'm talking about even small stuff, have made massive results from LinkedIn. So, for example, down here, Andrew Herman from Western Australia, $10,000 from sitting where you are and about to apply the information I gave him. He made $10,000 contracts through LinkedIn in 4 hours from what I'm about to teach you in a moment. Is that cool? 4 hours. He sat there and did exactly what I told him to do. 4 hours later, $10,000 contract. Irina, up the top there, $50,000 contract. She works in the business in the government department, so really tough to get contracts with them. $50,000 contract through LinkedIn. John Flett underneath her, $24,000 contract in 45 days through LinkedIn over an Easter weekend. Joe Carrera in Melbourne. He's in scaffolding. Anybody here in the building industry? One? Yep. So he's in scaffolding. You wouldn't think scaffolding and LinkedIn would go together, but I went down and taught his sales team how to use it. $66,000 worth of scaffolding orders in less than 4 weeks from LinkedIn. And Joe rang me and said, we knew we'd get orders, but we didn't think they'd come through LinkedIn, as in literally in the messaging on LinkedIn. Jane, anybody here in printing? Anyone in printing business? Fantastic. Jane over here, she was looking for those nice, juicy $1,500 a month clients, the ones that you just love to have, right? And she came to me and she said, Julie, I really want them. How do I get them? And I said, okay, let's figure out who they are. We did a bit of stalking on LinkedIn, built a few nice relationships, and literally within 3 weeks, $40,000 contract for a podiatrist company that has over 20 clinics. How cool's that? You're excited now, aren't you? Right? And then Andrea Blunden down there, she does a virtual reception. So she has a business where she will answer your phone calls. She doesn't do the whole meeting thing, but she answers your phone calls, plugs in your calendar where you want to go, runs a team of people who does that. Within 2 days of coming to one of my trainings like this in the Brisbane area, she got a $74,000 contract. She rang me up and her words were, "Holy shit, this stuff works. You need to get your ass in here and show me what I did because I had a stab at it and I'm really not sure I can do it again exactly the same way." And I said, "Sure, no problems at all." Went in there. Within 4 months, she got another contract for $150,000. And then in the next financial year, she did $380,000 significantly just through LinkedIn for her business. Just through LinkedIn. Who wants a bit of that? Are you ready to apply this information though? Because what Pete said this morning is really valid. Information is not transformation until it's implemented. I'm going to repeat that. Write this down. Information is not transformation until it's implemented. Okay, you're not going to get transformative results if you sit on your tuchus and don't take action, right? You've got to apply this stuff because it works. Okay, right. So LinkedIn, you really want to have a couple of things in place. You really want to have a goal for what you want to achieve because everything's going to come off the foundation of what we do in this first session. So what is the goal that you want for LinkedIn to achieve? Are you looking for more corporate clients? Are you looking for, lots of leads? Do you want to build brand awareness? Do you want to build a list? What is it that you want to achieve through using LinkedIn? So be really clear about that. I know we've got a cafe here, right? So do you want to get corporate catering contracts? Because that could work through LinkedIn, for example, right? So be really clear about what you want to use LinkedIn for and have a goal, set that goal, right? And as you heard today, the power of goals with, I set my goal, I want to be treated like a queen, and Steve's made that happen in my very first business trip since I made that goal, right? How cool's that? So important to set those goals. The second thing that you want to do is you've got to have a plan. I'm going to help you with this today. You really need to have a strategy as how you're going to do that, right? So make sure that when you go through, you take tons of notes today because we'll be talking actionable steps that you can take. And then, of course, once you've got your goal, you've got your plan, you need to take action. That's where success happens. So the big success tip for LinkedIn is knowing exactly who your target market is, because the more you know the who, the easier it is for the how, okay? I'm going to give you an example and I'm going to do this live on LinkedIn. Hopefully everything's going to work. How's that? We'll see how we go here, right? So I'm going to bring up LinkedIn. I'm going to show you this. Can you guys see this okay? Can see my screen okay down there? Good. Okay, so I had a client come to me. He's a lovely guy, late 50s, I'd say. He came to me and he said, "I'm an introvert." And I said, "Great, LinkedIn's perfect for introverts. If you don't like meeting people, this is fantastic." 2, he said, "I've just moved back to Brisbane from Townsville." He said, "I got divorced. In the divorce, the wife got the 3 McDonald's franchises that we owned up there with 150 staff and multi-million-dollar turnover." He said, "I got the shaft and I'm starting a bookkeeping business." And I went, okay. A little bit of anger there, no problems, we'll deal with that. But, let's move on, right? And I said, "Okay, so tell me about your background and tell me where your magic is. What is it that you do to transform things?" And he said, "Well," he said, "when I was working at McDonald's, I did all the back end, I did all the books, we got end of month done and all of that kind of stuff." And I said, okay, well, this thing started ticking over in my head and I went, you know what? As a bookkeeper, you've got amazing background in franchise, running food and beverage franchising, right? So I said, let's see if we can find your low-hanging fruit really quickly. So I typed in the keyword franchise. I want to show you how to use LinkedIn's powerful system. We typed in franchisee, is franchisee, franchisor? Franchisee, right? It's the people who own the stores, the franchisor owns the overall. So we typed in the keyword franchisee and we click the magnifying glass. Now, what happens is that LinkedIn tell us that we've got 37,884 members on LinkedIn with the keyword franchisee in their profile. That's not too bad, is it? Now, that's worldwide. Let's bring this down a little bit. I'll just bring my screen down. We've got all these filtration section on LinkedIn, right, where we can filter this down. I said, okay, well, let's just focus on Brisbane, right, because that's where he's located. He just wants to work locally, start smart, work from home. And so we type in Brisbane and we select Brisbane, Australia. Now we've got 943 LinkedIn members who are in Brisbane with the keyword franchisee in their profile. That's pretty good, isn't it? You all excited about that? He was starting to salivate at this point, right? And I said, well, we can get even sexier than this. Let's go down to industry, and instead of going for all the different things, why don't we just choose food and beverage franchisees? Now we've got 49 people who are in Brisbane who are a franchisee of a food and beverage outlet. Exactly what he's been doing. How sexy is that to find your target market and laser in on them? Does it make sense? Any questions at this point? Or are you all just in shock? Who's in shock? Yeah, double hand. Okay, cool. So essentially, this network, I want to really inspire you guys to know exactly who your target market is. Because with just a few keywords, you can find them. I'm going to give you another example. Are you ready? We're going to find your tribe another way. So in 2010, I was speaking at the Gold Coast. 2011. I was speaking at the Gold Coast, and I got off stage, and this lovely young chap came up to me and he said, I'm really stuck. I really liked what you talked about with LinkedIn and social media. He said, but I don't know if you can help me. And I said, well, let's give it a shot. And if I can help you in 5 minutes or less, you can buy me lunch. And he said, okay, deal. I said, fine. I thought, this is going to be cool, I hope. Right? So I said, tell me what you do. And he said, I'm a yacht designer. Well, ladies, I kind of went, oh, really? Nice. And he said, I said, that's cool. And he said, I said, what's the problem? He said, well, I'm employed by a yacht design company at the moment. And so all of my designs are not owned by me, but owned by them. And he said, I want to go out on my own. I said, that's great. So what's the problem? He said, well, I don't just design normal yachts. I went, okay. And he said, I design super yachts. Really? And I could immediately start to see where the problem was. He's 26 years old. He's working for somebody. You know, he's got all these amazing skills, and I knew exactly what he was going to say next. What did he say? No, I am. He was not. But he said to me, I don't know anyone with a spare $15 million in change, because that's what it takes to build the yachts I design. What a problem to have, right? I said, no problems, we can fix that. So we go up here to this wonderful search box. You're getting excited about LinkedIn search now, right? It's a portal to amazing riches. And we type in the word super yacht, right? I always have problems spelling that word. We click on the magnifying glass. Now keep in mind, this is 6 years ago. So very different back then. We're now filtering a different way. See up the top here, we can filter by people, jobs, content, companies, groups and schools. Let's have a look at groups. We're looking for lots of people around super yachts, right? So we click on groups. Now back then, 6 years ago, there was 7 groups. There's 70 now. So it's literally times 10, right? 7 groups. And this one here, Super Yacht Owners and Professionals, at that time had 1,800 members, has 19,000 now. I said, okay, where are we going for lunch? Now, I'm a cheap date. I don't drink and I'm vegetarian, right? So really easy date for him. Just give me a salad and carrot stick and I'll be fine, right? So do you see the power of LinkedIn now? Okay, either carbohydrate coma or you're totally in shock, right? Yes, you've got a question. Sure, we'll talk about it later, okay? Keep a pin in that and we'll come back to that because that will come in with the free and the premium and Sales Navigator. Is that cool? But you can do this on the free version. Is that cool? Everything I'm teaching you right now can be done on the free version. How cool's that? So you can go and join. He should be, theoretically, joining all of these groups as they come on board, right? So we've got Super Yacht Networking Group, 17,000 members. Super Yacht Refit Group. Hello, these are the people who have already spent $15 million. They're coming in for a refurb. Hello, 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 right? We've got Isle of Man Super Yacht Forum members. I mean, it goes up into International Super Yacht Society. It's just missing another I for ISIS. But it's close, right? So do you see the power of this amazing platform? Because if that has not switched on your light bulbs right now, I don't know what I'm doing here. Seriously, you should be super excited about this. Okay, so let's get back into it because I want to show you how to set your profiles up to actually really crack this. Again, everyone is not your client. Very good explanation of this is everyone here has probably gone to buy a car, right? And when people come up to me and I ask them, who's your ideal client? And they say, everybody, because my product's so good, everyone should have it. I go, no, honey, it doesn't work that way. Let's just drill this down a little bit. And it's like buying a car. When you go to buy a car, you kind of start off with that, what kind of car would I like? And we start off with the big questions like, do I want a sporty little number? Do I want a four-wheel drive? Do I want a family sedan? Do I want something zippy and economical to get around town on, right? So we go through a process of elimination in that first round. We break it down and go, okay, we want something that's kind of not a full four-wheel drive, but family enough, so we'll go with an SUV. Okay, then we start looking at the models of SUVs and we start comparing the specifications. What's the fuel economy? How much boot space does it have? What's the interior like? What's the resale value for? So we compare all of that stuff. Then when we've got our specifications nailed down, we go, yep, tick, 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 tick. We've got all of those things in the box. Then we go down and shop on price because now we can compare apples and apples. The very moment you decide on the car that you're going to buy is the moment, and you're on your way to the dealership. You haven't got it yet, but you're on the way to the dealership is when you'll start to see what? The car turns up everywhere. You thought you were original. You thought you were an individual. You thought you were unique. And then you go, oh, there's another one, and there's another one. Oh, friggin' hell, there's another one over there, right? Now, what's happened is very, very clever. Your brain has gone, oh, you've made a decision. I'm going to show you that wherever you go. Now imagine if you drill down and get very specific on your clients, now your subconscious goes into active gear because it can't focus on everyone, but it can focus on specific. Can somebody say that word for me? Thank you. I'm a little dyslexic, so some words really trip me up, right? So your brain will now start to go, oh, there's a potential client. Oh, there's another potential client, yeah? So it gets really, really cool. So I want you to really think about who your ideal clients are. Get drilled down into that. Develop that client prospect profile, right? Know their industry, their demographics. Are they male, female? Are they married with kids? Are they work in the city or are they regional? Do they have, a company that's doing $2 million? How many employees do they have? ... Be as specific as you can. Then delve into the fears, wants, needs, and frustrations because you want to know what motivates them. So I ask you this question. What do women love to buy? Every single time, shoes, right? Now, ladies in the room, I'll get to you guys, hang on a second, I'll get to you in a moment. But ladies in the room, do we buy shoes because it's logical or emotional? Both. Oh, hello, honey. I've had that conversation before. I said to a lady who wears the most boring black, very comfortable shoes and said to her, do you buy them because it's emotional? And she's, no, very logical. I said, okay, gum boots are logical. They'll keep your feet dry. She said, but they're not pretty. Oh, damn it, she goes, right? So for her, what was ugly for me was pretty for her, right? So we generally buy them, and by the way, hello, note to self, right? We buy them for an emotional response. My husband pretty much knows that nothing now comes into our house unless it's got some bling attached to it somewhere along the line. But we buy them because they make us feel better about ourselves, because it raises our self-esteem, because our confidence goes up. Then when we go home to our husbands and our partners and we say, honey, look at my new shoes. Guys, this is where you come in. Do you have the same emotional response to the shoes that we have? round of applause to the man in the middle. What's the biggest thing that you guys constantly ask? How much do they cost? Right? Now, here's the interesting thing. I've been happily married now for 25 years this April. And my husband, I have to say, and I have his permission to say this, was the proverbial tight ass when we got married. He did not open his first 6 pay packets. His father was an accountant. When I married him, I inherited the 32-column ledger that came with him. Oh my God, so you just groaned at that one, right? You feel my pain. I thought that we had an economical match made in heaven when we were saying our vows because I had a bank card that was maxed out and he had money in the bank. It worked for me. Apparently not for long. So, as it stood, I was significantly intimidated by his financial prowess when we first got married. So if I did go and buy shoes that were a little outside of our budget rules that we had in our 32-column book, I used to have a red pen in the glove box of the car because if those suckers weren't on sale when I bought them, by God, they were on sale when they got home. Because here's the thing, ladies and gents, your purchases, and it doesn't matter if they're shoes, I say this because we all relate to the story about shoes, right? I want you to remember this, is that we buy on emotion and we justify with logic. So I would go home with my purchase and say, but honey, they were on sale. It's logic. He's not going to have the same emotional response and self-confidence and raise in self-esteem that I'm having when he wears these shoes. I can tell you now. But he will have, his logic is still going to say, but they're still 50% more than I wanted you to pay, right? So we have different responses. All of your clients are going to have an emotional response to what you do and a logic behind it that will get them to buy, okay? You need to understand that. We're going to fold this into your LinkedIn summary today. Is that cool? Okay, right. Let's get cracking then. So, your first impressions on LinkedIn really count. You've got to activate this silent salesperson because it can do all this heavy lifting for you. It can generate leads from LinkedIn that you just didn't realize you could even have. So who's got what I affectionately call an abandoned house profile on LinkedIn? Hands high, be brave, be proud because it's only up from here, okay? Is that cool? So an abandoned house profile looks kind of like Diego's here. It's got a name, there's no photo, there's nothing there. It might tell you where he works, but in reality, it's zip, okay? There's no value proposition. I have no idea how on earth Diego's going to be able to help me, but that's what I call an abandoned house profile. It's kind of somewhere you'd go for a Halloween party, but not where you'd really want to hang out in real life. You'd want to hang out at this place because the food's going to be good, your foot's not going to go through the floor, and the lights will stay on, yeah? But you need to have a really well thought out profile. So you want to have great imagery, you want to have great headline, you want to have great summary, and you need your experience there. Let's break this down. Let's take you through the steps. So got your pens ready? Let's go. So your picture, really important. We've got a whole range of pictures up here that I'm going to put up, most of which are really not appropriate for LinkedIn. And I'll tell you why. So we've got the guy over here who looks like he's got Mr. Martian's antenna coming out of his head, and it's only because he's lined up with the fluorescent bulbs, but he does look like Mr. Martian, my Uncle Martian. The guy with the cap and the sports glasses really doesn't inspire trust because I can't see his face and he's looking away from the camera, so there's no trust there. The lovely lady down here in the bottom corner, there's a thing that I remember as a woman growing up in business, that you dress for success, not for sex. And she was kind of dressing for Tinder, not for LinkedIn, right? So I would say keep those party photos off LinkedIn and keep your professional face on, right? If you're a couple, while your wedding photo or your dating photo is really lovely, I don't know if I'm talking to Arthur or Martha. So just one of you, not both of you. And by the way, if you've got a joint profile, please split those now because people really don't know who they're talking to. This lady who's on a cliff holding something very weird, I would never be able to pick her out in a million miles if I had a coffee meeting with her. And this guy has got all of this space and he's found the tiniest photo possible to upload, right? And then lastly, we've got a lady here who looks like she's just been blown out by the photography. So her face is so whited out, she really looks like she's come out from the vampires. And of course, a logo is against LinkedIn's terms and conditions for your personal profile. If they find it, they'll delete it, and you really need to have a face. And the reason we have a picture for your profile is because it builds trust. And what we want to do is instill trust in all of our process. You've had Ari Galper talk here before. He's amazing about trust-based selling. That everything that you do really needs to exude that energy of trust for people when they connect with you, starting with your LinkedIn profile image. You want to be looking directly down the barrel of the camera. Smile, that's a good start, and have no distracting background. And if you need help with your photography, there's a lovely lady up the back there who can do it for you, right? So go and see her, wave. There you go, up the back. So definitely invest a couple of $100 or more in getting great photos done because it will pay off. And I'll give you a good example of this. A guy came up to me in Brisbane about 9 months ago and said to me, look, you know, I'm really struggling. I got retrenched from my job. I would really like to get another job. I'm going for tons of interviews, but I'm not getting anywhere. I've been applying through LinkedIn. Everyone's looking at my profile, but they're not really contacting me. What do I do? And I said, let me have a look at your profile. Did it on the mobile really quickly. And went, oh, my goodness, what do you do? He said, I'm a forensic accountant and auditor. Immediately, your butt cheeks clenched together with that, right? No one wants a forensic accountant or an auditor. That's sphincter tightening job, right? That's scary stuff. But he looked in his photo, and when I was speaking to him, he's the most loveliest guy. But his photo looked like he'd woken up and eaten a bowl of lemons for breakfast. It was a type photo. No one wants to work with that. You're a forensic accountant, for God's sake. You already scare people. Smile. They'll open up to you. He did. He called me. He changed his photo that day. He called me about 2 months later and said, I got a job. I said, I'm really delighted. He said, that did help a lot. I got a lot more response coming through LinkedIn because I was suddenly open and really active with that, right? So you might think this is a really little thing and I'm banging on a lot about it, but LinkedIn tell us without a good photo, your actual connections will drop 14%. It's huge. It's massive. That people just don't want to connect with you if you don't have a really trust-based photo. So make sure you've got that up to date. The second part of your profile that you really want to work out is your headline. It sits directly under your name. You've got 120 characters to really grab people's attention, but most people make the mistake of putting their status of what they do and, you know, who they are and what they do. For example, director at XYZ Proprietary Limited, you've had the entrepreneurial seizure, you've finally made it to boss. Now you're just really proud to have director out there. No one gives a shit except you, right? No one cares. So tell them how you help them. What's the biggest way you help your ideal clients? So for example, mine is helping businesses generate leads and sales using LinkedIn easily and elegantly. Again, remember emotion, logic. People want that whole process folded into your copywriting. So you can follow that up with a little bit of curiosity if you want, like read my summary to find out how. Or ask me how. That can get people to take action. So you can do some of those little tips and tricks that work really well. Personally, I like read my summary. I want people to go a little deeper and find out a little bit more, right, about how I work. So the other thing with your headline, it follows you everywhere on LinkedIn. So when you comment on something, your photo, your name, and your headline will show up on where you comment when people roll their mouse over it. And if you added a post, again, it comes up on the bottom of the post or at the very top of the post. It will have your name and what you do, your title, your headline comes up there, right? So make sure that you make it memorable and engaging to your ideal audience. So for example, with the cafe people, you're not necessarily looking for people to come to your cafe, you're looking for corporate orders, right? So you want to focus your headline not to what you do as a cafe, but what you do for the corporate sector. Make sense? Because everybody else, they're going to be on Facebook and they're going to be on Instagram. But your corporate people are going to be on LinkedIn. So you have a little bit of a different strategy for that. Does it make sense, everyone? Cool. And Google love your headline just as much as LinkedIn do, because when they rank your LinkedIn profile, notice that directly under that, in this section here, that your headline shows up. Again, it now comes up when people Google you. And by the way, I don't know if you realize that Google tell us this, 92% of your ideal clients, your customers to be, Google you before doing business with you. I mean, they literally will Google your name and Google your business name. So imagine if you've got this showing up and it's being reinforced all the way through on your LinkedIn profile and on your website, etc., of how you help people. It's really powerful stuff. Okay. So Julie Lewin came to a program I was running, a LinkedIn workshop in Brisbane a couple of years ago, and she was a very interesting case for this headline because she's a medical intuitive. Does anyone know what a medical intuitive does? No one. Okay, good. She has the ability, it's very woo-woo, very woo-woo. I mean, I have her permission to say this. It's so far out on the realms of new age therapy that the oxygen's barely breathable out there, right? That's how far out woo-woo is. She has a gift to be able to look inside your body and see exactly where the disease starts. I know, it's like X-ray vision. And she was filmed in 1994 and 1996 on a TV show called The Extraordinaries, being proved right by the doctors for her diagnosis. That's amazing stuff, right? And she said to me, Julie, I am so far out of the corporate sector, how on earth is LinkedIn going to help me? Because I am so woo-woo. LinkedIn possibly couldn't be for woo-woo people like me, right? You wouldn't think so, like scaffolding. It's just so out there. And I said, well, let's see. So she came along. We changed her headline. It's been changed several times since then. But literally what was really astounding for both of us is that within 24 hours, she was approached by 2 radio stations through LinkedIn to have her own radio show, just from changing a headline. How cool is that? She ended up doing one with CBS Radio in the States with a listening audience of 1.8 million people for 9 months. Great brand exposure for her. Really huge, from her home in Warwick, which is 2 hours west of Brisbane. How cool's that? So this is how powerful it is. And the same happened for Andrew, the guy who made the $10,000 contract, changed his headline, got a client. That's how cool it is. Your contact details on your LinkedIn profile also need to be fleshed out. Don't make people climb Mount Everest to get in touch with you. I don't know if you've all experienced, like I have, finding a website that has finally got the answer that you're looking for, but you cannot find contact details for them for love nor money on their website. It's so frustrating. So don't do that on your profile. Make sure that you've got your websites listed there, that you've got your phone number there, you've got your email address, you've got your Skype or your Twitter or whatever else you want to put there, but fill that out. Let people see how they can get in touch with you. Now, Glenn, does anyone here know Glenn Kirkwood? Oh, look, there we go. There's always some Glenn Kirkwood fans in the room, right? So Glenn Kirkwood, very big in BNI. He's known as that referral guy. Runs several big chapters of BNI across Sydney and down. Is it down here in Wollongong as well? Just sold it. Okay, cool. So he came to one of my workshops in Sydney a couple of years ago, and he said that very strategy about putting the website link in there actually generated a $16,000 job for him. Now, while it wasn't the fastest strategy, he was still blown away that he could make 16 grand from just updating these little things. So it might not seem a lot to you, but I promise you, everything that I'm teaching you has had a big impact for clients of mine. Okay, so let's talk about your summary. The summary is really key. This is where we really activate the silent salesperson. There's 3 big mistakes most of you make, and you might relate to some of these. The first one is that the summary is too short or non-existent altogether. So you've got 2,000 characters to write your summary. 2,000 characters, not 2,000 words. Take a big deep breath. Just 2,000 characters. It's like 3/4 of an A4 page. It's pretty simple, pretty easy. And in a moment, I'm going to give you a formula on how to write it to activate the silent salesperson. Is that cool? Great. So the second biggest mistake that people make is that, and this one is kind of LinkedIn's fault, because when you fill in your profile, LinkedIn kind of say, tell us your story. I want you to ignore LinkedIn a bit on this one. And because the big mistake here is that you're writing all about I did, I have, I was, kind of thing in your summary. And no one, again, cares about that. So stop writing about it and start writing about your ideal client. If you're finding that you've got I am, I have, or if you've written in third person, Julie has, Julie did, Julie does kind of thing, change it, and you need to have a lot more you and your. You want to talk to your ideal client. You want them to read this and resonate with it, right? And the third big mistake, and this is a huge one, even LinkedIn experts make this one, is that they don't have a call to action at the bottom of the summary. You need to tell your ideal clients exactly what the next step is to do business with you. If you don't, you're letting them down big time. So let's break this down and actually tell you paragraph by paragraph how to write your summary. Is that cool? Yeah? Will we go live on LinkedIn and show you mine? 2 people. Right. You're all too busy writing, aren't you? I know, I'm so harsh on that. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's go to my profile here on LinkedIn, okay? So, by the way, up the top here on both the free and the premium, you can use this wonderful imagery space to reinforce your value proposition as well. This is just done on Canva. Very simple. I am no graphics expert at all, but you definitely want to play around with Canva. In fact, you can get actual LinkedIn timeline covers. The what do they call them? The templates for that on LinkedIn. So definitely go there. It will be sized correctly for you. Okay, we come down to the summary. Now, the summary is quite interesting. Since LinkedIn made all these big platform changes at the beginning of the year, previous to that, we could see the whole summary. On the mobile device, we can now only see 186 characters. Write that down because it's really important. On the mobile device, you can only see 186 characters. On the desktop, we only get to see the first 363 characters, right? So we've really got to make that 180 and the 360 plus work for us. They've got to work for their characters. We've got to work for our money here. So what you really want to do is grab people's attention in this very first sentence. And I've been playing around with this for the past 9 months since LinkedIn made all these changes. And what I've come to find is that if you actually put capitals, just not all the way across that first line on the desktop, but just about 80 characters or 100 characters there of that punchy, discover how to generate leads on LinkedIn, or discover how to take corporate, lunches with ease, for example, whatever it might be. You want to grab their attention and get them to read through. Now, I deliberately put a little arrow icon here because if they're on the mobile device, I want to encourage them to keep reading. Does it make sense? If you want to know how to put that in there, you can come onto my profile, scroll all the way down to where you get to projects section. So I'll find projects, it will be in here somewhere. See one project? Do you see this down here at the bottom? Go down here, just click on the down arrow, and it says how to add symbols to jazz up your LinkedIn profile. There's all these cool symbols. All you have to do is click on the one that you want, copy it, paste it into yours. Is that cool? So you've got a whole heap. Don't go too heavy on them. It looks a bit kitsch, right? Just a little bit goes a long way. But you've got all kinds of ones there from phone icons and all sorts of things. But that's where you'll find those icons if you're looking for them. Okay, so coming back up to our summary now. That first paragraph, we want to write our paragraphs short and we want our sentences to be short. So your first paragraph is your identify paragraph. We might write this up here on the board as well, I think, because I think it's really worthwhile. So the first paragraph is identify. Okay? We want to help our ideal clients identify that we're talking about them, about the problem that they have. All right? So you've really got to wrap up to them what is the problem that they've got that you help to solve, right? Does it make sense? By the way, the reason I had you all connect with me is because you can go and model off my profile. Is that cool? There was evil intention. No, really, it's good intention, yeah? Okay, so the second paragraph is aggravate. Okay, what do I mean by aggravate? Aggravate comes back to the shoe story. Remember, we buy on emotion and we justify with logic. We've got to hold the mirror up to your ideal clients and show them what it's costing them to have that problem. Otherwise, they will be apathetic and they won't take action. So what is it costing your ideal client financially, emotionally, physically, spiritually, to have the problem that you've got? By spiritually, I don't mean woo-woo. I mean their sense of peace of mind, calm, zen, whatever you want to call it. What is it costing them to have that problem? All right? Be really specific about that. So I redo my LinkedIn summary every year in alignment with my strategy for my business. And if I change my strategy mid-year, I change my profile accordingly. But the last year's profile, the summary, had a really great aggravate paragraph. And I'm going to read it out to you because it hits all of those points, right? So the problem I solve is lead generation through LinkedIn. That's the problem that I solve. My clients have the problem of lead generation in general. So the aggravate paragraph went like this. Without leads, sales start to dry up, finances become tougher and tougher, tighter and tighter. Tough decisions have to be made, which means you start working longer and longer hours to try and keep everything afloat, but that takes its toll on your health and your family life. Now, do you see how I've taken lead generation and hit the cost financially, emotionally, physically, and spiritually? Yeah? If you can get that in your one paragraph, you've hit gold because you're hitting them emotionally. Yeah? But we can't leave them in pain. We need to highlight the pain in order to get them to take action, but we can't leave them there. So the next paragraph has to be, what is the solution to this problem? And when I talk about solution here, I don't want you to give them the methodology of how you fix it. I just want you to talk about the overarching, how do you fix this, right? It's not about giving them the how, the what, the wherefore. It's just about what's the overarching solution for that. And then the next paragraph is what's the proof that this particular solution you're suggesting works, okay? So what's the proof of that solution? Okay, pretty simple. So you can talk about, for example, how many thousands of people or hundreds of people that you've been able to help solve this problem. Or you could give some industry statistics if you've got those for your particular industry. Whatever that might be, come back to give some stable proof. Now, this is the only paragraph, this next one, is all about you, okay? Is your credibility. Why should they choose you to help solve this problem over anybody else? What makes you special over anybody else in your industry? And that's going to come down to the fact that you're uniquely you. No one else has walked the same path that you've walked. No one's read the same books, gone to the same school, had the same life experience, had the same work experience in exactly the same perception that you have. They might have read some of the same books, but they'll have a different perception. They may not have read all the same books. And then finally, our last paragraph is your call to action. What is the next step? What do you want them to do next? Does it make sense, everyone? So when you break down the summary, I'll come to you in just a sec. If you break down the summary into paragraph by paragraph, it becomes easier to write. Yes? Would you all agree? Yeah? If I had said to you, sit down and write 2,000 characters, you'd all go, ugh, right? We've just tried to make it really simple. Do you feel confident in writing your summary now? One person. Okay, 2 people. We're getting there. How do you guys, do you feel more confident writing your summary? Yes? Formulas help, don't they? They make a big difference. Right. It could be either or in reality. It could be your company if you wanted to. It could be you. Depends on what your strategy is for LinkedIn. So for me, I tend to write mine about my credibility, which is down here. If I scroll down, you'll see here I've got, for my credibility paragraph, I bring over 25 years in traditional sales and 15 years in door-to-door cold calling. Prior to discovering social media and starting to use the tools to build 2 successful businesses myself, using the methods I now teach others. And what really comes back when people connect with me is that, and I ask them what made them connect with me, for example, oh, you've done cold calling, 15 years, that's pretty hardcore. You know, we're really interested in trying to get our sales or lead gen or something like that. So often that will be a big, point for them to connect with me. Does it make sense? So yeah, I don't necessarily go on and on and on about it, but I just kind of hit the highlight reel. Does it make sense? I'm not going to go and put in how many PhDs I've got or anything like that, because we've got an education section on your profile where all of that can go. This is about why should they trust you to solve this problem over anybody else. So if people ask me, well, what makes you different to any other LinkedIn expert? I said, well, tell me another LinkedIn expert that's done 15 years in door-to-door cold calling, 10 years in online marketing. And they can't. It's my uniqueness, right? It's my unique perspective. So, yeah, good question. Which is this one? Yep. Yes, I do. I have a company page. Yes, you can. No. Yeah. And here's the thing. I have a company page. You can go and follow it. It's the Social Media Princess. You can search for it on LinkedIn. Quite frankly, I don't post there a great deal. And I'll tell you why. I have the company page because I want to have a credibility holder for the company, if that makes sense. And I want it to rank in the Google search rankings. But the fact of the matter is I've probably got maybe 41 or I'm not sure even how many followers I've got there now. Maybe 100 or so, who knows. But here's the thing. I don't get as much traction posting there as I do posting to the 6,000 people I'm connected to. And to build the likes on a company page on LinkedIn actually requires a lot of time, effort, and money to do that. And I'd much rather build personal relationships and monetize that and leverage it in other ways. And there's other ways that I can leverage LinkedIn where I only have 6,000 connections, but when I do an article, and I'm going to show you this to you in a moment on the next session, I can get up to 2.2 million readers on that with only 6,000 connections. Okay? Yes? Yeah. Not so much on LinkedIn. Not so much, no. Yeah, if you're doing blog posts, for example, articles, and you don't change those, then yes. So if you're doing a LinkedIn article, which is like a blog post on LinkedIn, we'll talk about content in the next session. If you're doing a LinkedIn article, that gives you up to 40,000 characters to write a LinkedIn article. If you do a newsfeed post, it's 600 characters, right? So if I'm doing a LinkedIn article, it's like a blog post, and I want to do the same article on my blog, I would need to change at least 14%. Okay? And that will stop Google duplication. Is that cool? Great question. Any other questions? I think, how many minutes have we got left? 5? 5? Cool. Okay, any other questions on this? I want to just show you quickly how to do your experience section, because you've got current experience and past experience, and they both play a very important role on LinkedIn. In fact, LinkedIn tell us that if you don't have at least 5 experience titles filled in, you get less traction on LinkedIn because people don't see you as having a lot to offer. Does it make sense? And it doesn't matter if you're a chef over here and a mortgage broker now. That doesn't matter. It's about the path that you've walked in that. So let me talk to you about that. First of all, I'm going to scroll down to the experience section here. And you'll see here that you can have multiple current experiences. So if you have different products, or who has multiple businesses in the room? Anybody? A couple of you? So if you have multiple businesses, and this is often a big question that I get, which hat should I wear? For LinkedIn, it comes down to what is your strategy for which of those businesses. But your experience section, you can have one here, and one down here. You can see I've got more than one current experience. Does it make sense? So flesh it out and put it down. For your current experience formula, there's two ways of writing it. You can follow just a nice, here is a product review of what we're doing, or you could do it this way, which a lot of my clients do because it's much easier to write. It's broken into paragraphs of what I do, who I serve, how I do it, who I work with, etc., right? So you have a choice of how you want to write it. A lot of my clients find this particular formula is the easy one to do. For your past experience, however, you want to write down this formula of how to write your past experience description. The first paragraph should just be a little bit about the company that you worked for, just to give context of where you worked. The second paragraph is what was your role. Please don't write this like a resume, guys. Write it conversationally if possible. So just put in, what was your role in that particular company? What did you do? The third paragraph is, and this is where it starts to tie in your past to your present. The third paragraph is, what were the achievements that you made in that role that you, not your boss, you are most proud of? Because we don't kind of highlight our attributes enough. So what are the achievements that you had in that role that you are most proud of? And then the last paragraph is a real good one. What were the skills that you learned in that role that help you serve your clients today? Because that ties the past to the present, okay? What were the skills that you learned in that role that help you serve your clients today? And if you write your past experience using that formula, you'll find that it will really serve you well. People will build a lot of trust. So I think time's up for this session. Has that been good? Yeah? Cool.